Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So, it would appear as if Markelle Fultz's NBA career is over. I hate to say that. He's only, in his mid-20s, but nobody signed him. And I don't think anybody's going to sign him. He is still a free agent. And there's some people who think he deserves to be on an NBA team, and I see where they're coming from. He's had a couple games where you watch him play, and he looks like a number 1 overall pick, and then there's other games he plays, and you're like, how the fuck is this dude in the NBA? The problem really is Markelle Fultz really struggles to shoot three-pointers still to this day. I mean, if you look at his statistics, I think the highest he's ever shot from three is like 31%. And the league being a three-point shooting league is not going to, they're not cool with that. Markelle Fultz is 6'4", he's 209 pounds, so he's even a little bit undersized compared to the point guard position of today's NBA. You look at guys like Tyrese Halliburton, you look at guys like Luka Doncic, who's running point. Even SGA, I think, is like 6'6". So being 6'4", I've been saying this for a while. The 6'3" and under point guard era is kind of behind us at this point. Markelle Fultz being 6'4" is not much of a difference. And then when you look at his statistics, really, the best year he's ever had shooting the three was in 2022-2023, he shot 31% from three. Granted, this is a guy who's not even consistently shot like 80% from the free throw line. The best, he almost shot 90% from the free throw line in 2020, 2021, but he also only played 8 games. And that's another issue with Markelle Fultz, is the idea that he's injured all the fucking time. He has, obviously his first couple years in the league with Philadelphia weren't the greatest. He did have some type of nerve issue in his shooting shoulder, or something like that. There's something with his shoulder, or he had some type of weird nerve issue where, like, he just couldn't shoot a jump shot regularly, everybody else would, and I think that has somehow affected him his entire career. At this point, he came into the league at 19. He's 25 now. He's played 7 seasons. If the three-point shot were going to come, it would have come at this point. And it simply hasn't. Also, when you look at his stats from other areas of the floor, most of his points have to come from around the basket, and even the shit around the basket really isn't that great. I mean, he shoots 55% around the basket. League average is 60%, or 59.9. Also, if you look at his shot chart from either side of the free throw line, within, I'd say, 8 feet, anywhere from 5 to 8 feet, the guy couldn't hit water if he's dropped into a fucking lake. I mean, we're talking he shoots in like the low 20s or mid 20 percentile, 20%, when it comes to even just shooting from there. Then when you include the idea that he's injured all the time, and then you include the fact that he can't make a fucking three-pointer, Markelle Fultz's time in the NBA is probably done. It sucks because he's a guy that I've been kind of like, I haven't been watching Markelle Fultz a lot, but I've been like, let's see, is there any redeeming qualities to his game? And even so, he's, I don't know, I guess he's somewhat of a playmaker. I mean, he averages, 11 and 4.5 a game. He had a couple of years where he's averaging about 5.5 assists a game, 5 to 5.5. The most points he's ever averaged in a game was last season. Not last season, the season before. He averaged 14 points per game, and 5.7 assists per game. He shot almost, 78% from the free throw line. And that's the weird thing about Markelle Fultz, right? Is like Markelle Fultz is a guy who's like has his years where he shoots like 80% from the free throw line, in the 70s, but really even that's not consistent. So it's just the idea like he's an inconsistent basketball player. And That's the one thing the NBA I think hates the most is guys who are inconsistent. If you're injured all the time, can't shoot a fucking three, or your play is just flat out inconsistent, generally you are an undesirable player in the NBA. Now, there could be a career for Markelle Fultz overseas, and I really think that's what has to happen. If I'm being honest, I feel like Markelle Fultz has to go overseas. I feel like he should go over there, play a couple years over there, see how it goes. Maybe he gets better at shooting threes. Maybe he just longevity no longer becomes an issue where he's injured all the time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's just some redeeming aspect of his game that happens overseas that hasn't happened in the NBA, because as much as I want to like Markelle Fultz, I feel like he's just a giant fucking basket case of a basketball player. He's a guy that I feel ever since he's come into the league has just been a giant project. If you watched him play in college at Washington, it's just, you watch him play and you're kind of like, how is this even the same basketball player? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, if it's just, he is the one player that we saw in college and we're like, yeah, he's going to be really fucking good. And then he got to the NBA and like everything that could have went wrong for Markelle Fultz did, and I think that nerve issue that he had, really, really fucked his career up, if I'm being honest. I feel like the nerve issue was something that he didn't expect. I don't think the 76ers expected it. And I hate to say he's a bust because, he's a guy that, it wasn't really, I think, a skill issue so much as it was a medical issue. And, a big part of his career was just being healthy, there's a lot, he's got seasons where he's played 8 games or 18 games or, so health was a part of it. There's only a handful of seasons I think he played 50 plus games. Let's see, his third year in the league, and when he was 24, he played 60 games. Other than those 2 seasons, he has not played 50 games. Actually, he hasn't even played 45 games. So injury plays a big role in this. But it's just the idea, it sucks. It sucks Markelle Fultz had this type of career. But maybe, who knows? Like I said, maybe he goes overseas. Maybe he revives his career. I don't know. I'm rooting for the guy. I don't know where he's going to play. But somebody I think overseas will want him just because he's a former number 1 overall pick. And, that could increase sales for them. For all we know, also, maybe it's a confidence issue as well. That's another thing I considered, because you look at some of the guys who go overseas, right? You look at guys that are like even Dwight Howard, like Clee Anthony Early is a guy who plays in, I think, Taiwan. And he's a guy that got shot in the fucking knee. Guy that I actually got to see in high school and play against in high school. But look at a guy like Clee Anthony Early who was in the NBA. And, while it might not have worked out in the NBA because he got shot in the knee at a nightclub, overseas, he's one of the better players in the league in Taiwan. And Markelle Fultz is still young enough where if he were to go overseas and do well and improve on a couple things like staying on the fucking floor, improving that 3-point shot, maybe becoming a more consistent free throw shooter. It's really the shooting aspect of his game. Obviously being 6'4" doesn't help much if he could improve on defense. Just there's a lot about his game that needs to be improved. And if he could just become a more consistent player, I feel like there's a spot for him in the NBA, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And honestly, with the nerve issues in his shoulder, they supposedly fixed it, but if you watched him play, I don't think you'd really be able to tell. Markelle Fultz is one of those guys that falls into the category where you're like, is it really a nerve issue, or is it mental at this point? Does he just have it in his head that he's losing the mental game? You know what I'm saying? He goes out there and shoots a basketball and has no confidence that he can fucking make it anymore. And That's a real thing that happens with players sometimes, where it's like you just get in a mental state where it's like shit goes bad, and you just think to yourself like, I can't, like, I don't know, like, you're in your own head a lot of the time, most of the time, and sometimes it just becomes like you have no confidence anymore when you step out on the court or whatever it is that you do that's competitive. Sometimes you just know, and I think for Markelle Fultz, after the nerve issue, and I think he had surgery to repair it, but it doesn't seem like it really did anything for him. I feel like that's the state Markelle Fultz is in. It's like he just is at a point where he doesn't think he can do it anymore. And you know what? Maybe if he goes overseas and starts killing it overseas, maybe develops a little bit of a mid-range jump shot, becomes a playmaker, better on defense, better at three-point shooting, maybe even just becoming a consistent shooter would be a plus. I think it's a chance for him to maybe even reinvent who he is as a player. I don't know, but it sucks to see, because this is a guy that was like a number 1 overall pick, and he was one of the most hyped guys in that draft, and then he got to the NBA, had the nerve issue, and that was the end of it. So, I don't know, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Like helps me out, subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.